Hey, deserving listeners, sister wives, let's check it out.
Throughout talking to these characters that they really started pushing that I was not happy here in the family and that I wasn't being treated right. They started talking a lot about like our religion and our beliefs. Why do we believe this way?
That's interesting. She mentioned a little bit of this previously. We're getting more specifics. And yeah, it's so interesting. And maybe we'll find out eventually, but I'm guessing not. But usually catfishing is because someone's trying to extract money, and it doesn't appear to be the case here. And you think, well, then what's the purpose? And then we remember that these people are famous. And at the very least are attracting people that are just nefarious in general, but also maybe someone who has an agenda, maybe even, as I've been wondering and terrified about it, being spurred on by a Reddit community or something, or a group of people online. And I'm not saying that people on Reddit are bad people. I'm on Reddit, so it's just people on Reddit. But I've talked about how the reality TV discourse about the cast members, and this is just my experience, is particularly unfair and over the top. And I perceive as just an excuse for people to get their bullying impulses satisfied, or their comparison impulses satisfied, meaning that they hate themselves and they are just looking for someone to demote so that they, by contrast, are elevated temporarily. So it does, just hearing this, it's such an unusual, because the other motivation for catfishing is a lonely person who just wants to have a connection, and they are willing to trick someone, or they feel like they have to trick someone or something. So that's another reason. But this one, it sounds like their motivation, because it seems as though from the very beginning, the individual was manipulating and lying. And that is some, like I've been saying, some real psychopathic shit. And then you think, well, why? What are you trying to accomplish? Maybe it's just to troll and prank. People do that, of course. But then you hear this and you think, well, was this the motivation? Was it some chip on their shoulder or bone to pick about them as a polygamous family, or about Cody, or about the family, or about the religion, or something, some kind of goal to humiliate and tear apart? Because a lot of things are pointing in the direction that that was at least a major motivation, was to break them all up. Now, you could argue that their long-term goal was monetary, or something more, more beneficial to the stalker's life somehow, some sort of benefit. And the way to get there would be to separate her completely from the family. And to do that, first things first, you got to separate her from the family, and then you can extract money or something. Possible, but that's not usually, because I'm guessing that if they were looking for money, we would have heard about, because what they will do is they will ask for a little bit of money here, and then sometimes they'll even send you money as a way of showing that it's a two-way street, and then they start asking for more and more amounts, and then before long, you are giving them tens of thousands of dollars because they're saying, I'm stuck in this place and I need money to get out, or I have this medical bill and I'm going to die next week. Don't you love me? And so we're not hearing that. What we're hearing is that it's possible that they set out from the beginning to just take them down. And then I think, given the public discourse around this family that I see sometimes, it's possible that they, again, either spurred on by a collective or just having an individual reaction of, I don't like the way that, yes, there's a possibility that, this sounds ridiculous, I'm just going to throw it out there, that the stalker actually thought they were doing a good thing for her, and they saw or they thought that Mary was being coerced and controlled and harmed, and they wanted Mary to be out, and so they used intimidation to get. That sounds ridiculous, but the whole thing is ridiculous. So who knows?
And where does it stem from? And like, he was questioning me on, why are you even there? You're not.
The question I have is, how, if it is just a woman, which it sounds like it was, how did she mask her voice to sound like a man? I'm just really curious. Did she just lower her voice, or did she use a voice changer? I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Treated right. You don't have sole focus on you. I mean, you're just kind of one in a group of.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like the stalker was watching the show and was using that information to control.
I mean,
we hear that a
nothing.
lot, the one of the many.
And then he started.
Oh, the other thing that I didn't show a clip of was that Cody was saying to Mary, I don't understand why you put up with, similar to Janelle. You're such a fighter and you're so strong. I don't understand why. I think to a lot of people in this family, they might see Mary as the strongest one in the family. I could see them thinking that. The most stable, the most level-headed, the most assertive, the most sure of herself or something. And that could all be true. And you can absolutely become victimized, which I've already been over. But Cody was saying, I understand why you didn't fight back. You don't take that from anybody. You don't take that from me. If I were to say something along those lines, you would absolutely assert yourself. And the first thing she said, which I'm glad she did, is, well, you never abused me or you never threatened me. So on one level, I'm glad she said that, because that, I think, helps, hopefully, the others to understand the nature of what it's like to be in a situation like this. But also what it illuminates to us, at least from Mary's perspective, is that Cody is not abusive. Because it is a question that I've been having. What's really going on here? And I think it's particularly tempting to assume that there's some kind of control or coercion or abuse that's happening, or that he is a jerk face in some way. And I've heard a number of things from the sister wives, and who knows, maybe she's so gaslit, or by contrast, it's not as bad, but it's still abuse. I don't know. I can't know. But I do worry about everyone that I watch on these shows, and I would prefer that abuse is not happening behind the scenes, I don't, cut myself off from evidence otherwise. If it's happening, it's happening. But I would just hope that Mary's not being abused by anyone, including Cody. And so for her to say that he's not intimidating or not abusive, I don't know. It was just notable.
Started really bashing our belief system, Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon.
And then, of course, you think it's a former Mormon or someone who has been harmed by the religion or something and is doing this just because of that. That could happen.
And it caused me to really think about and evaluate what it was that I wanted. He would bring up these points about our religion, and it caused me to start reading and start praying more and start really evaluating it and kind of bring a connection with God back into my life.
Interesting. And if it is the way that it looks, it's just an abusive, Machiavellian, harmful stalker using whatever they can use to control. And it's classic and by the book that for an abuser, they will try to isolate you. And to isolate you, they have to dismantle your support system and your life. And her religion is a huge part of her life, right? And is a source of strength, a source of support, obviously, with her family and the larger community. And so to control her, you would have to separate her from her family and her from her religious community and her religion.
Out of the family, you just wanted out of your relationship with me.
Cody, this person got so far into my head that I didn't know what end was up sometimes.
Yeah, that sounds like gaslighting. That's the way a gaslighting victim will talk. And it takes a long time to dismantle that. And I think she's still in that process. We haven't heard exactly how that played out, and she might not remember or care to recall, but we could imagine what it would look like. I'm guessing that the perpetrator, given the way that she talks about how much the perpetrator was talking about the religion and the relationship, that they would say, hey, you're better than this, or you don't deserve to be treated this way, or you have to share him, and him, he's a stupid jerk face or whatever. Just imagine what was being said. And also for Mary, I think that there might have been some complaints. There might have been some, before it became abusive, which I'm wondering about. The way it sounds as though the initial catfishing and abuse was positive for Mary. Mary said, "Oh, he would say all the right things." Da da da. I'm going to take a guess and say that period lasted longer than a couple weeks. I imagine it was at least a couple months, and I would imagine that it wouldn't take long for someone to get their hooks in, given where she was at and how isolated she was already. And then the abuse probably, quickly accelerated. And so Mary had opened herself up to someone. She trusted someone. She depended on this person, and Mary's not saying this directly or not in these words, but I think for Mary it was falling in love, and that this person was the most important person. I haven't been showing these clips, but Cody has been talking about how he's now realizing that Mary was talking with this person over text and social media and also on the phone while Cody was at her house, right underneath his nose. And he's still kind of freaking out about that. He's like, whoa. The other thing that I heard here is that Cody said, when you told me to stop coming around, was that because of this and that? And earlier we had learned that they had grown apart and that he was saying that she was pushing him away, and she was saying that she was pushing everyone away, including Cody. But we didn't hear that specific, that she literally said, don't come around anymore. Don't come to this house anymore. And I wonder when that happened. I could see how it might happen actually before the abuse happened or after, or a mixture or something, I could see how she might fall in love and think, I'm out of here. This is the beginning of the end. Oh my God, this person's right. And I could also see a bit of a retconning on her part, that she would look back now and say, I always knew that this threat to my family and to my religion was wrong, and so I just knew to dedicate myself to my family and to my religion. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was at least a period of time when things were going well, and she was actually, the abuser, the perpetrator, was actually capitalizing on cracks that were already there. You can imagine that being a fairly intoxicating experience and being swept away with something, So she's trying to, but I don't think the other family members understand, and maybe it's understandable that they don't understand yet, and hopefully they will understand one day soon, the severity of what it's like to go through something like this. That because they don't seem to be operating from a place of understanding just how horrible it is, how scary it can be, how all-consuming it can be, how easy it is to get into someone's head. It doesn't matter how strong or weak they are. It doesn't matter how close their connections are with other people. If someone wants to get you, it's hard to resist. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So it's December, and for me anyway, the holiday season is filled with fond memories. I know that's not true for everyone, but regardless of one's personal experiences, I think that December is a good time to get a nice cozy blanket and get cozy, that kind of thing, at least for those of us in the northern latitudes. And speaking of getting cozy, I suppose, one could say that therapy is a great place to get cozy. Cozy with ourselves, to wrap the warm blanket of therapy around us. And with the advent of online therapy, you can even stay home and go to therapy and sit on your favorite couch and be wrapped up in your favorite blanket. Well, one place you can find a therapist to do this with is at BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, it's definitely worth giving a try. So find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Kirk today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
And I'm still trying to get her out of there.
You seem so angry. I didn't feel like I could get to you. I didn't feel like we could even talk.
There were times that I was angry at you, Cody. I'm not gonna lie. I was angry at you. Because if you and I had been taking better care of our relationship, then I wouldn't have been in such a
Yeah, this is good. So she's talking to Cody directly. This is good. I think it's tempting to scapegoat Cody for this whole thing, and that's not what I would hope would happen by the family or by the audience. The scapegoat, or the person, the problematic person, is the perpetrator, is the stalker. 100%. There's the fact that Mary and Cody were having some marital problems, or they were going through a period of distance, does not mean that it justifies anything that this person did, and it also doesn't mean that it gave justification for Mary to, because there are two different things that are happening as she's being manipulated and harmed. She is being harmed, but she also, in the beginning, at the very least, if you just take the first few weeks, I'm guessing, Mary was cheating. She was lying by omission at the very least, maybe lying. And maybe in the first few weeks it was just friends. It was just friendship stuff. But it sounds like, from Mary's description, eventually, while things were still in the positive zone before the abuse started happening, Mary was falling in love and really liked this person. So that is deceptive. It's lying by omission. I think we can understand why she did that, given the scenario. She has to share her husband with 3 other people, and Cody might be hard to be close to anyway. I don't know. If you don't really like the way Cody is as a person, as an audience member, then you might be like, I get why she. So both things can be true. We can understand why she would want to leave, and it can be immoral and wrong for someone to cheat emotionally. But it depends on how Cody sees it. He has already stated that he doesn't see it as infidelity, because he doesn't see online communication or even phone communication as actual infidelity. I think he comes from an old school way of looking at it, which is fine, that unless you have physical contact, then you're not actually cheating. So, who knows? The other thing I'll say is that Robin seems to be the only one that is having a reaction that I relate to. The rest of them are either just at a distance, maybe because of just chronic distance that's been happening in the family. I don't know. And also, the rest of them seem to be not really understanding how easy it is to become a victim. Which is normal. A couple of them have even mentioned just how naive they feel. Why would they know about this sort of thing? Why would they think this would happen? Why would they know about the cycles of abuse without having looked into it before? So I get that, but I will say that Robin's maybe it's because, actually, I don't know, but the way Robin talked when we first met her, she seemed to be hinting that her former partner, the father of her kids, was abusive in her perception. So there's not a lot of indication of that. But then when we hear that the biological father, was we didn't get much detail, but was distancing to the point where Cody would adopt the kids, and so there's a possibility that guy is really a real piece of work, and it's possible that for Robin, she has a much easier time relating. It might even be why Robin detected something and kept pursuing Mary, and might be why Mary opened up to her. So it's also possible that, and they've been reiterating this or reinforcing this, that Mary and Robin still have a very close relationship and have had since the beginning of Robin entering the family. I think like maybe they're coming up on 5, 6, 7 years or something by this point. Anyway, so there's that. So maybe Robin is just reacting because, but another possibility is that since Robin is still considered to be the new person in the family, maybe Mary felt more comfortable telling her because she would feel less shame or feels, I don't know.
Vulnerable place that I would have been open to other friendships that would lead to this kind of deception and evil. So I was angry at you for not being there for me. So I was angry at you. I had those moments, but
Oh, sorry. I'll stop yammering. But the thing that's happening right now, the good thing is that regardless of the perpetration and the abuse and the stalking that she went through, or I guess in addition to her initial potential decision tree to start to cheat emotionally, or at least go down a direction of that, there's another thing here, which is it illuminates the pain and her unexpressed feelings of being treated unfairly by Cody. And this is something that I talk about with my clients when infidelity is the focus, which is that all these things can be true. The perpetrator can take responsibility and apologize and blame no one for their transgression, and they can take responsibility for that, and the victim can fully be allowed to feel victimized and not a factor in it, right? Like the fact that, I don't know about them because I'm not treating them, but a couple like them, typically what will be collaboratively established as a narrative is that although Cody was a jerkface and has been neglectful or has been pulling away or doesn't treat her well enough, that in no way says that he deserved to be cheated on. So all these things can be true, that their relationship wasn't going well, and a large part of that was because of Cody. That can be true. It could also be true that because of all this, it illuminates this problem that deserves to be worked on. That could be true. It can also be true that the cheater is 100% responsible for having cheated, and the cheated on person deserves to not be blamed, even in the slightest, for that. And it can be true that she was eventually being abused, arguably abused the entire time she was talking to this person, because if the person was planning this from the beginning, she was being abused even before she knew it.
a bit of it was a lie. And I get angry at myself for getting so upset about it, like I cared. Like I don't care. She messed with the wrong person, and I want to use really bad words, but she messed with the wrong person.
It's weird.
And then I wonder, because I wasn't around, I wasn't watching the show back then, did the audience try to go after the stalker? I mean, that's generally what happens in situations like this. The internet will, as a group, take action as a mob, for better or for worse. And I don't know how I feel about the mob going after the stalker, but as long as things were not done illegally, I think outing the person, reporting the person, finding out who that person was, might be a good thing. Of course, showing up as a mob at the person's house without fully understanding the whole situation and also threatening harm or something wouldn't be okay in my book. But I don't know. I don't know. And honestly, maybe they'll get into it So I don't want it to be spoiled if that's true.
It's just a tough place to be. I can only imagine how vulnerable, how abused she feels. Who would you ever trust again?
How did you end it with her? How did you stop?
Yeah, that's good. That's good that he observes that. I hadn't really thought about that it would just completely destroy her sense or her ability or receptiveness to trusting other people, particularly people online, which might be a good thing for her to experience, honestly. It sounds like she was communicating with a lot of random people, maybe a lot of fans. I don't know. But that might be helpful to her in the end, but it could also affect her ability to trust anybody, even her family. All right, well, I want everyone to truly take care of themselves, really, because you deserve it. You really, really do.